You know, I think it's a natural thing for animals to not like to be stared at. And because often in the animal kingdom, if someone's staring at you.
Hello, have a great day. Comment 1 if you have great best friends. At 78, Emmylou Harris finally reveals the untold story of Linda Ronstadt, her close friend and collaborator. What happened behind the scenes that almost made one of the greatest albums of the 80s impossible? Discover the secrets behind the strong friendship and the notes that made history. Linda Ronstadt's 20-year-old secret under the spotlight at a solemn tribute concert, honoring the decades-long musical legacy of two of country music's greatest voices. Emmylou Harris brought the entire house to a standstill, not because of her singing, but because of a surprising revelation about the deep and intimate relationship she shared with Linda Ronstadt. In a behind-the-scenes conversation with veteran music journalist David Brown, Harris shared for the first time a hidden chapter in their relationship that lasted nearly half a century, one that even their most loyal fans never expected. Linda and I almost ran away to form our band in 1976, Emmylou said, with a wistful smile. We were so in tune with each other that nothing else could compare. Every time I sang with Linda, I felt something sacred happening. We considered giving up our solo careers to become a permanent duo. The statement rang out like a time bomb among the audience and the music community because of Harris and Ronstadt, despite having collaborated on such glorious musical moments as the album Trio with Dolly Parton. They have always been seen as two independent artists, each with their own irreplaceable voice and musical color. However, the fact that the two had seriously considered joining forces permanently in a completely new musical form brought a new layer of meaning to every recording, every performance they shared. The final decision, not to pursue the dual path, wasn't easy. Harris calls it the most painful decision of my career. The two spent many sleepless nights, not because of arguments or disagreements, but because they knew each other so well and loved what they created together. There was something special about it. Beyond any technique, any arrangement, it was just that when we put our voices together, the world slowed down, Harris says. Still, contractual obligations, label expectations, and their career paths led them to split up a more viable path. But that didn't diminish their bond. On the contrary, it cemented that friendship deeply and respectfully. They watched each other from afar, supported each other when they could, and each reunion, as on Trio, was a clear demonstration of that special relationship. Not having to see each other every day, not having to be together constantly, but always having a spiritual support on the other side of the stage. I think it's because we're not a permanent band that the magic between us has been preserved, Harris said. There's no competition, just admiration and understanding. This emotional revelation also sheds light on why Trio, an album recorded in various stages and with no shortage of twists and turns, has such a lasting and emotional resonance. Ballads like Wildflowers or My Dear Companion are now understood not only as brilliant harmonies, but also as echoes of a musical dream that never quite came true, but perhaps that's why it's all the more beautiful, all the more memorable. And now, at 78, Emmylou Harris is finally telling that chapter, not out of regret, but as a tribute to Linda Ronstadt, the friend, the artist, with whom she wrote an irreplaceable part of American country music history. So what has kept them together for decades, even when they didn't pursue a common path as a band? Perhaps it's their deep friendship and rare musical chemistry that has become the foundation, not just for their careers, but for a generation of artists and music lovers to come. The friendship as country music entered a period of experimentation, a simple encounter between two talented artists, ignited a small spark that would become a musical fire that would change history. In 1973, Linda Ronstadt, then at the peak of her powers and moving from rock to pop with a distinctly Americana feel, met Emmylou Harris, a young singer, finding her way after years of collaborating with the legendary Graham Parsons. Ronstadt was drawn to Harris not only for her velvety yet rough-hewn Appalachian voice, but also for the emotional depth she brought to each line. I sensed something very raw and genuine in Emmy, Ronstadt later shared. When Graham died, I wished I could have been her duet partner. I imagined a future where we were the Everly Sisters, like a girly version of Dawn and Phil. However, both of their careers were exploding in separate directions. Harris had just signed to Reprise and was preparing to release Pieces of the Sky, 1975, her breakthrough solo album that would prove she could stand on her own behind Parsons. Meanwhile, Ronstadt had released Heart Like a Wheel, 1974, and was starting to enjoy huge success with hits like You're No Good and When Will I Be Loved. But even as their schedules spiraled and labels pressured them, the two kept in touch and regularly found ways to sing together, whether in private moments backstage, in hotel rooms, or at quiet recording sessions. An unsigned artistic relationship began to form, one that bound them not to contracts, but to mutual respect and a shared passion for honest music. When they first met at a recording session in California, one of the first things Harris and Ronstadt asked each other was, "Who is your favorite country artist?" Almost in unison, they both said Dolly Parton. It was a pivotal moment. It was more than just casual admiration. Both Ronstadt and Harris considered Parton to be the pinnacle of musical storytelling, a living symbol of the fusion of Appalachian tradition and modern. But what they didn't know was that on the other side of Nashville, Dolly herself was secretly watching their career, especially after hearing her covers sung by Ronstadt and Harris. Their three-way love of music, vocal artistry, and ability to blend harmoniously became the foundation for one of the most legendary trios in country music history. On September 9, 1975, one of the most important moments in modern country music took place not on a stage, but in a small hotel room in Los Angeles. After an Emmylou Harris recording session, Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt came over, and then something magical happened. The three sat down, singing the songs they'd grown up loving, in unscripted harmony, without any elaborate arrangement. According to Ronstadt, all they needed was a guitar and a simple tape recorder. That sound, I'll never forget it, Harris recalled. We weren't trying to do anything big. We were just singing, and it just felt right. Throughout the late 1970s, the three continued to look for opportunities to collaborate. Memorable recordings like Light of the Stable, 1975, Evangeline, Mr. Sandman, and My Blue Tears, are not just musical products, but testaments to a loving and respectful bond between three of the greatest female vocalists of the era. Yet despite having the material, ideas, and passion to create a complete album, it was not possible to do so during that decade. The reason was not the artists themselves, but the record labels. Each was on a different label, Warner Bros., Harris, Elektra Ronstadt, and RCA Parton, and none of them wanted to share the spoils or cede distribution rights. Complicated licensing agreements meant that each recording had to be shared, and as a result, many of the collaborations were scattered across separate solo albums, leaving fans without a unified experience. I think the biggest regret is that we never got to tour together, Linda Ronstadt once remarked bitterly, because being on the bus, singing together every day, tweaking every harmony, that would take things to a whole new level. Though the first trio album didn't come out until 1987, and Trio 2 1999 wouldn't be released until nearly a decade later, the sound they created in the 1970s has endured. Through demo tapes, unreleased recordings, and memories of brief performance, it's a magic that's been delayed, but never lost. Every time they sing together, it's as if there's more than just music. It's history, struggle, feminist aspirations, and friendship. Without official titles or contracts, Harris, Ronstadt, and Parton are remembered as three great stars who came together in the country music sky for a brief moment, but so brilliantly that they'll never be forgotten. Although their friendship and musical collaboration began in the mid-70s, what has kept fans curious for years is why did it take so long for these three talented women to officially release a joint album? What hindered a project that seemed so promising when they first sang together? The long wait, the story behind the trio album, is not just the story of a musical collaboration, but also a nearly two-decade journey, fraught with challenges, roadblocks, and incredible patience by three of country music's most accomplished women, Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, and Dolly Parton. Although they began trying to record together in the mid-1970s, the trio album was finally released in 1987, more than a decade after the project was first conceived. One of the main reasons for the project's long delay was not a lack of musical chemistry, but rather contractual and administrative complications. At the time, each artist was signed to different record labels, a situation that made formal collaboration extremely difficult. Record companies were concerned about rights, sales, and distribution, leading to complex legal and commercial hurdles that made recording together nearly impossible. In addition, the three artists' prolific solo careers created scheduling conflicts, making it difficult for them to simultaneously record and perform together. Still, the three artists did not abandon the idea of collaboration entirely. They recorded several songs together in the 1970s, but these recordings were never compiled into a single album. Instead, many of the songs were released on their respective solo albums. For example, Mr. Sandman and Evangeline appeared on Emmylou Harris's Evangeline album, while Linda Ronstadt included Dolly Parton's My Blue Tears on her 1982 album, Get Close. Other recordings, such as Even Cowgirls Get the Blues and Palms of Victory, were also included on Harris's later solo albums, demonstrating their musical chemistry and connection, despite not being able to collaborate officially at the time. A major turning point came in 1986, when Dolly Parton was released from her RCA record contract, one of the main barriers to their collaboration. This was the moment when the three talented artists were free to work together, without strict legal restriction. With the crucial support of producer George Massenburg, the project was finally brought to fruition. Massenburg, who had worked with Ronstadt before, was praised by the artists for his listening skills and supportive creative spirit. Ronstadt once said of him, "He was great at listening and bringing complex musical ideas to life. We had a lot of thoughts and inspirations flying around, but George kept things focused and kept them from getting confused by going in too many different directions." Massenburg's professionalism and recording skills were especially effective when recording acoustic instruments, which are at the core of the trio's signature sound. "He has the best way of recording acoustic instruments that I've ever heard, making them sound as natural, rich, and alive as possible," Ronstadt emphasized. It was this delicate balance of naturalness and recording quality that contributed to an album that is not only musically beautiful, but also timeless in its emotional impact. After years of overcoming challenges and obstacles, the album Trio not only marked the perfect union of three legendary voices, but also created a lasting musical legacy. But what made the delicate harmonies and sisterly relationship between Emmylou Harris, Linda Ronstadt, and Dolly Parton so indelibly iconic in country music history? The legacy of harmony and sisterhood. When three legendary voices intertwine, musical magic happened. The landmark Trio album not only brought together three remarkable talents, but also created a lasting cultural phenomenon that continues to influence country music decades later. Released in 1987, Trio became an instant commercial sensation, selling an impressive 4 million copies worldwide. The album topped Billboard's country chart and yielded 4 top 10 hits on the country singles chart. Most importantly, the collaboration arrived at a perfect moment, essentially revitalizing all three artists' careers after a period of commercial decline. The trio stood apart from the increasingly pop-influenced country music of its era. As one critic noted, though Trio isn't a roots or acoustic album, it was far less produced than a lot of what was happening in country music during that time. This back-to-basics approach influenced countless artists who followed. The musical chemistry between Parton, Harris, and Ronstadt proved so powerful that they reunited for Trio 2 in 19. Their success paved the way for other female supergroups and collaborations, arguably influencing later projects like Case Lang Theirs, featuring Katie Lang, and inspiring events like Lilith Fair. Ronstadt captured their unique dynamic perfectly. "I love singing with other people. I can do things with my voice with other people that I could never do by myself. When I sing with Emmy, I make sounds with my voice that I'd never make with anyone else." The accolades for Trio came swiftly. The album won the Grammy for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, claimed Album of the Year at the 1987 Academy of Country Music Awards, and earned Vocal Event of the Year at the 19. Trio 2 subsequently won Best Country Collaboration with Vocals at the 42nd Grammy Awards. Their collective legacy received additional recognition, when the three women were jointly awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And looking back on their collaboration, the artists expressed profound appreciation for what they created together. I just talked to Emmy today, and we were saying how proud we were of those records. They were musically satisfying. Ronstadt reflects. Notably, the album's enduring appeal transcends categorization. As Ronstadt observed, I don't think anybody liked the idea of us not being in a niche. It wasn't rock and roll, it wasn't country, it was old-timey music. This refusal to be boxed in ultimately made their combined talents even more powerful. What do you think makes trios lasting appeal and difference in the hearts of listeners? And can those values still be reproduced in modern music today? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and